5 bloody demonstrations at ancient Rome's Colosseum, 1 staged naval battles. To celebrate the opening of the Colosseum, Emperor Titus organized 100 days of free public games across Rome. According to Woolf, this was a way for Titus to introduce himself and his new dynasty, proving he was as powerful as his father, Vespasian, who had begun the Colosseum's construction before his death in 79 AD. The 100-day games included 2 staged naval battles, known as Nomachia, one of which somehow took place inside the Colosseum itself. This is remarkable because, as Nathan Elkins, vice president of the American Numismatic Society, points out, the Colosseum's arena floor wasn't large enough for a full-scale battle. We cut and think of this as a full-scale naval battle because the arena could only fit 2 full-sized Roman warships, leaving no room for maneuvering. Woolf believes that smaller, flat-bottomed boats were used in the Colosseum, allowing fighters to stand in the shallow water. The boats couldn't build up enough speed to ram each other. Instead, fighting platforms were constructed so the crowd could get a better view of the hand-to-hand combat. You would have seen several boats draw close, the people on board grappling and boarding each other's vessels, and then engaging in armed conflict. Woolf says, it's believed Nomachia were held in the Colosseum only twice, in the years 85 and 89. The primary venue for this practice was actually the Nomachia Augusti, a low-lying area by the Tiber River that was more easily flooded. Elkins mentions that Titus's Nomachia there supposedly involved thousands of soldiers and full-scale warships filled with convicts who fought to the death. Ultimately, Elkins believes Nomachia were less about executing criminals and more about impressing and fascinating the audience. A key theme in the amphitheater was the emperor's dominance over nature. It was spectacular to watch dry land be flooded, then see the emperor command it to be drained, and watch it dry again. 2 exotic animal fights. Roman leaders, eager to make Colosseum events grander and more extraordinary than their predecessors, leveraged their vast empire to import animals from different regions and pit them against each other. They brought in some exotic animals, says Woolf, including lions, tigers, and elephants, which were made to fight or at least perform tricks. There's even a story of a Caledonian bear fighting a lion, Woolf adds. The idea was, let us pit the fiercest animal from the north of the empire against the fiercest from the south. Elkins notes that one of the most memorable animals presented to the Romans was the rhinoceros. Initially, poets wrote about the rhino with disappointment because it just sat there. Elkins says, then it flew into a wild rage and started tossing bulls into the air. 3. The wild beast hunt. The Romans didn't just pit animals against each other. Emperor Probus once transformed the Colosseum into a forest filled with trees and greenery, then released animals and trained hunters inside to stage a hunt. Usually, the trained hunters would win, says Elkins, but the crowd often sympathized with and supported the animals. Sometimes, while a hunter tried to stalk a leopard, the leopard would actually stalk him, and the animal would kill the hunter. One of the most famous hunters was Carpophorus, believed to have killed a bear and a lion that attacked him. Poets even compared him to Hercules. However, not everyone who fought animals in the Colosseum won the crowd's admiration. Emperor Commodus, who was mentally unstable and believed himself to be the reincarnation of Hercules, fought animals naked. He apparently had specially designed arrowheads to behead ostriches. There are eyewitness accounts that Commodus fought an ostrich in close combat and cut its head off. Elkins states, he was then seen waving the ostrich head around, while everyone chewed on laurel leaves to keep from laughing, just like in modern stadiums. spectators could buy food and drink from buffets in the amphitheaters. But records suggest Roman snacks were much fresher. There's even evidence that some animals killed in the morning were butchered and sold as snacks in the afternoon, Elkins notes. 4. Public executions. According to Elkins, the executions of convicted criminals, early Christians, and non-citizens were the lunchtime show. While many ordinary Romans watched these executions, the noble and respectable citizens would often leave the amphitheater to have lunch during the violence, returning in the afternoon for the gladiator fights. To heighten the drama and tension, executions were frequently carried out using methods that visualized or reenacted Greek and Roman myths. Kathleen Coleman, a classics professor at Harvard University, has even called these deadly performances. One popular character in Roman culture of the time was the infamous bandit Elkins recounts that Laurealus, after committing crimes and breaking religious taboos, was eventually captured, crucified in the amphitheater, and torn apart by a bear. Other roles forced upon criminals included the legendary Greek inventor Daedalus and his son Icarus, who died for flying too close to the sun. They built these contraptions and had the criminals swinging in the air as if flying, Elkins explains. But then they allowed the criminal to lower gradually so a bear could pull him down. There's even an account of a criminal dressed as Icarus being pushed from the top of Nero's wooden amphitheater. Apparently, he fell so close to the emperor that he spattered him with blood, says Elkins. Sometimes, the condemned took matters into their own hands. It's claimed that 29 Saxon prisoners strangled each other to death the night before they were to be executed for entertainment. The Roman philosopher Seneca even recorded an incident where a German prisoner used a public toilet sponge to suffocate himself. 5. Gladiator contests. The main event of the entire day's spectacle was the gladiator fights. Names like Spartacus, Marcus Attilius, and Spiculus were renowned for their fighting skills. But the most famous individual match was between Priscus and Verus. During the inaugural games, sponsored by Titus, these two fought so skillfully, fiercely, and for so long that the bloodthirsty crowd had a change of heart. The crowd began begging the emperor to stop the fight because it just kept going on and on. Elkins explains, they were exhausted and wounded, and the emperor's rule was that you could unstop the fight until one of them surrendered. Titus allowed the contest to continue. Finally, when one raised a finger to yield, they both surrendered at the same time. Instead of choosing one, the emperor declared them both victors and granted them their freedom. The crowd reacted with massive approval for Titus's decision.